Hey everybody, you're watching Cole the Corn Star, and welcome to the 100% restoration and remodel of my great-great-grandfather's $7,000 mansion. Today we are going to be working in the basement over in this corner where we do not have a foundation wall. They just have this little baby thing on top. So we are going to be digging out the soil, we are going to be building a footer, we are going to be building a rebar structure inside, we'll get everything formed up, and then we will pour concrete so our wall will look just like this when we get everything done. The work we have for today is quite literally cut out for us. We are going to be digging an area 4 feet wide, and then it is going to go 1 foot back, and then we have to go all the way down to the ground level. Then once we get down to the ground level, we are going to have a footing that is 12 inches thick and 2 feet wide for our 4 foot width. So the very first thing we need to do is just get rid of all of the dirt.
It is very unfortunate to say that there is no room for me beside Cole to dig.
Oh, there's plenty of room here, Roman. Come on.
Oh, well, so, yeah, it's just not gonna work out, unfortunately, of course. So I thought I'm gonna start looking for scraps of wood so we can build a shield that we're gonna reinforce as crazy so we can have something that we can pour the concrete into. Let's go upstairs and see what we have. It's been a while since I've been here last time, but I think we have some scraps of OSB that we can use. I guess I should have measured our hole size first, but we'll grab these and maybe we can use them. If we do, we can come back and grab more. Can you measure the dimension of our dugout?
Just do your 48 piece, and then we just take a 2x4 on the end.
Yeah,
and add it on.
We'll have to do something.
Tell the guy. After a nice little bit of digging to get warmed up this morning, we got our big area up above done. So we are 48 inches wide. It is actually about 14 inches deep. So we accidentally dug it 2 inches deeper than we needed to, which is not the end of the world. It is just a little bit more concrete. And we are now getting our footer rebar exposed and trying to get the footing area shaped up a little bit. So Roman is going to finish up this last little part here. We are pretty much in a nice little sand layer. So the digging down here really isn't too bad. And I am going to go up above on the surface, and we are going to dig a hole right here, and we are going to dig a hole right here, so that way we can pour our concrete down inside of here. And then when we have our form in on the inside, then we will make sure we'll be able to get this corner nice and full of concrete all the way up to the bottom of this existing foundation wall, as well as this corner over here. So I'm gonna see what I can figure out with digging these holes. Looking at our area up top, we need to dig a hole about somewhere right here and then somewhere right here. We have about 2.5 feet of dirt that we need to get through, so instead of doing this the slow way with the spade, I'm gonna see if I can use some machinery to be able to dig these in like a minute. So this means we are going to need the skid loader. And we are going to need this thing, which is a post hole digger. Hooking up to this thing can be a little interesting sometimes because the bracket for the hookups is homemade and it doesn't quite line up perfectly, but if we're careful, I think we can do it. We might be on, I'm not sure. Need to be very careful to make sure I'm not squishing my hoses, which it looks like we are okay. Then we need to have this part underneath. Oh, that's a big metal splinter. Oh, that was a gnarly one. Then we got the bracket underneath right there. So now we just gotta make sure we have our pins on the bottom side through. So I'm gonna lift up a little more and then we'll hook up our 2 hoses right here to those. And then we should be in action. And yes, we are locked in. Okay, let's hook up these hydraulic hoses and try to dig this thing. Now we are definitely running overkill with this 18-inch post hole auger. We do have a 12-inch auger right over here, which we could flip on, but it's a 2-guy job to flip it on because you have to get a pin through here and you have to get it lined up just right on the post hole digger. So it would be more me in the cab, roaming out here, or me out here roaming in the cab, getting things lined up so that way we can get this pin in right here. So we'd literally be digging for 30 seconds with that 12-inch one, and then we'd be putting this one right back on. So I don't really think it's worth taking the time to try to get that one on for this 30 little second dig. We pretty much use this one almost all the time, so we'd want to be putting this one back on right away. So we're just gonna try it with this. If we have to dig for an extra couple minutes with the shovel because we dug out too much dirt for when we are backfilling, not the end of the world at all. I think we will make out a-okay. Still way better than digging the whole thing by hand. If I did this right, when I pull this lever right here, we should get our auger bit to spin. And it looks like, yes, we did it right. And we can go either way if we want to, so we will want to be running it this way. Now I'm gonna try to run the auger at a little bit of an angle, so that way I'm not digging straight down and digging out way more dirt than necessary. So let's do our first hole. It actually took me a little bit longer to dig the first one than I expected. I was gonna come in at an angle nice and gently, but when I did that, I was hitting the wall down below, so I kept having to slide away from the wall a little bit and readjust. But we did break through into the area we were digging down below, so from right down there to here, that's how deep below ground our foundation wall was on this corner of the house. And you can see where it caused some problems, because right here, we have some separation in our bricks. So this has definitely moved at some point. Everything from here over is fine. This brick looks good. But right here, we have some problems. So we are going to have to address that at some point. But we're taking step number 1 right now, which is pouring the foundation wall down below there. And we have broken through. So exactly what I did right here, I am going to do right here. There we have it. Hole number 2 is dug. We can look right down into the basement.
Cole is done digging up above my head, so it means I can jump in, get this surface black dirt out of here, and finish my dig for the footer.
It's going to cause it. Money is then you'll learn that there's also someday I'm alive. Or something else, chances are you will break them through walls.
Oh, Roman, how you making out down there?
We're getting there.
We got a new toy to put together. This is a rebar tying gun. So we are going to be doing a lot of concrete work for the Underground Movie Theater, as well as the Underground Movie Theater floor, the basement floor of the house that is here, and then we have some other pours that we are going to be doing. So we are going to be putting a lot of rebar in the floors, the footers, and the foundation walls. Now in the past, we had the little thing where you take the little pieces of metal wire, you bend it around, then you take the little hand crank thing and you tighten them down. It's not a very fast process, especially when we have a ton of rebar to tie. So I decided to bite the bullet and I picked up this bad guy. So what you do this is loaded up with a spool of wire on it. You hook up the battery to it, then you put your rebar pieces you want to tie together right here. You pull the trigger, and it literally goes doo-doo, half a second, ties it 10 times better than I could do it by hand, and then you can move on to the next one. So I did try to be as economical as possible with this one. I found the discontinued model. They have a new updated one from this, and so they were selling this guy without the charger and without the battery. And so by doing a little bit of forensic investigating, I was able to find the charger for it, and I was able to find the battery for it. So I was able to save myself $600 just by ordering these things separately and doing a little bit of research. So yes, this is an expensive item, but it is going to save us so much time, it's not even gonna be funny. So to be completely honest, it's gonna pay for itself in just the time savings alone. And it's kind of fun to run. At the moment, this thing is absolutely useless because our battery is completely dead. So I'm gonna get this thing on the charger because after lunch, we are going to be needing to use this. So this should be pretty self-explanatory. Yeah, this looks like a typical battery, and I assume this is just a typical charger. They just have their own little different hookup spots, so that way you have to buy this battery and you have to buy this charger. I'm not gonna lie, it does get a little bit annoying that everything has its own charger because, like, with all the DeWalt stuff over here, when I have a DeWalt battery, I can hook it up to an impact, I can hook it up to a drill, I can hook it up to a grinder or a reciprocating saw. All with the same battery, even a flashlight. Anything that's DeWalt, I can just, or if it's a battery DeWalt, I can just throw the DeWalt battery in and it works. But with this thing, I have to have a separate charger for it and a separate battery, which, like I said, it's not the end of the world. It's just when you get in the shop and you have, let's say, 5 tools like this where they all have separate chargers and separate batteries, it just gets a little bit cluttery on the bench and the charging station with everything. And why is this not fitting in there? Uh-oh. Oh, it'd help if I took the safety cover off. Okay, there we go. Okay, moment of truth, plugged into the juice. Okay, we have a light. Does green light mean it's charged or, oh wait, nope. We are at 0 to 30% because it's flashing. We'll have a solid green when it's at 100. Okay, we're gonna let that charge for a bit. Lunch break, pork steak, onions, tomatoes, cucumbers from Roman's garden, and tomato juice. Am I forgetting anything?
No, just say that it's delicious.
Roman and I took about an hour-long lunch break. It looks like our battery is charged enough to do what we needed to do, so I'm just gonna pop this right out of here. Roman is currently getting some rebar cut that we are going to be putting inside of the area that we cut out. He's kind of fighting the chop saw right now. For whatever reason, when we hit the trigger on this, it seems like it just wants to trip our breaker immediately. So we kind of wonder if maybe something's going on with this motor just getting old and something pulling harder. But it's really annoying and it makes it really hard to cut stuff when you end up tripping the breaker like 5 times, literally to get a quarter of the way through 2 pieces of rebar. So I think Roman is going to try to grab our other chop saw and then see if maybe we can get that one to work. So in the meantime, I am going to see if I can get this thing threaded up with some of the tying wire that is gonna go in here. So on the front of this, it very specifically says we need this type of wire, which is actually what I have right here. So I believe what we need to do first, we need to make sure the power is off on this thing because we don't accidentally want to tie something when our fingers are in the way. And then we push this button, that thing comes down. Then we flip this little guy here. That should open up. And then now I think we need to unspool our wire a little bit. Ooh, careful, not too much. And then there's a little hole right there, it appears. I need to wind this up just a little bit. I've never done this before, so this is a, whoa. Comes unspooling on you really quickly. That's kind of inconvenient. But I believe we just stick this wire up inside this little hole. Okay, now I think we just need to take a piece of rebar, stick it in there, and pull the trigger and it'll do its thing. And I guess we gotta put the battery on. There we go, 3 bars, turn the juice on. Oh, whoa, whoa, what was that? All right, Roman, how can I help?
Do you have maybe A rebar tire.
You're about to be a happy man, Roman. Now, I've never used this before, but from my understanding, that dial there on the back is the tensioner. So I got it on a 3 right now. I think the bigger the number, the looser the wire. So the bigger the rebar, basically. But then your on switch is right there. We've got about 4,000 ties on this battery, so.
Did you seriously buy it? Wow, let's try it.
Yeah. I'm trying to figure out what this wind chime noise is outside. We have a little breeze going, but I don't think enough to make wind chimes go.
Check this out.
What are you doing?
That sounds like a wind chime.
Sounds like you need to get back to work.
All right.
Well, moment of truth, Roman. Let's see if it was worth the investment or not. I have a good feeling it is, but we don't know until we try. Ugh. Oh, that did a good job.
Invisible wire.
What do we got going here? Okay, we get it. You're beeping. You're beeping. You can stop. All right, give me a minute, Roman. I gotta get the owner's manual so I know what all these beeps are. First time adjustment. Once we get it going, it's gonna work good.
You promise?
I hope so. I hope so. Beep 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 beep. Tie wire is jammed.
That should work now.
There we go.
By looking at the curvature of this wall, you can tell that we had a little problem bracing.
So in other words, this time when we are bracing, we are over bracing because we want a nice straight flat wall. We don't want form on the verge of blowing out wall like we did over here. Lesson learned. We are now pretty much done with the bulk of our structure. We just need to make this top little last piece right here, and there is one little bit of stone up here that we need to get chipped out. So Roman has the jackhammer right now. He's gonna use that to get up in here. I guess this must be a really hard rock because he could not break it with a hammer. So this thing must be the second hardest element on Earth. But otherwise, we got everything all braced up here. We got some nice triangles going. We got everything beat way down into the ground here and then braced at the bottom. And then we got all sorts of support here in the middle. So this should not be going anywhere. And we also have it into the concrete over here. So that's an extra level of security and protection for our DIY form wall. Good job, Roman.
It'll work this time.
So we're gonna let Roman jackhammer, and I'm going to go up and get all of the concrete stuff out so that way we can get ready to start pouring. We are losing daylight quick.
All we got accomplished is this nice round little indentation.
First thing we need to do is take off our postal digger. We gotta get the forks on because we're gonna bring over a couple pounds full of concrete, and then we're also gonna bring the concrete mixer over. So this comes off pretty easy. There we go. Okay, already got it unhooked here, so we can just back away and go get the forks. Gonna scoop up the forks here real quick, and we are on. Now let's get our concrete. Pro tip, if you have a door opener in your skid loader, it is super super handy. So that way you don't have to get in and out every time you just want to grab something from inside of the shop. So I got a couple pallets inside of here. Looks like we have 2 full ones there in the back. We're gonna use this half one first, and hopefully we have enough. To be honest, I haven't calculated this out, but we should have enough. Should. I'm not even gonna try to load this thing up on the forks. We're just gonna haul it over there real quick. There's no real easy way to pull this thing because you hit your legs on it if you walk too fast. So you gotta kind of waddle like a duck. I'm just gonna walk backwards. Actually, I'm gonna walk forward. Look at this. There we go. That's much better. Here goes pallet number 2. If we can get it scooped up. We don't want to poke our hole through the side of one of these bags because that makes a big old mess. Looks like we did it. Perfect. There we have it. We now have all of our concrete pallets over here. We do have an extra one there if we need it. Roman's already got this set with a load of concrete, so he's dumping the first load in. We'll jump downstairs and see what Roman got built while we were getting the concrete out. He did add just a little bit more to what we were doing. We just want to make sure this is nice and strong. So it looks like he added some more top support, and then he's got these pieces down here on the bottom. Once we get our footer poured, which is what we're pouring first, then we'll be able to cover everything up. I want to be able to see in there so we can get in there with the vibrator and make sure we get around that rebar nicely. But once we get this bottom part full up to here, we'll put these in, and then we'll end up start filling this area here. Then when we get up to the top, we will come in and add our top little bit. But we have an access hole right there, and we have an access hole over there, so we should be able to get everything to flow through nicely and sit butted up right underneath this existing little baby foundation wall. Then we should have a really nice strong corner. Okay, I think she's ready. I'm going to be running back and forth between working up top, helping Roman, and running the vibrator down here. We really need to make sure we are getting our concrete into every little crack and crevice. So that's where the vibrator is going to come into play. And if I let this sit too long, then it gets hard and then the vibrator doesn't work. So we really have to be on top of it. But check this out. You hit the trigger, and it just makes that stuff move. This thing is so handy. Now it may look like Roman's just up here cutting open bags, dumping them in here, just grabbing water, throwing it in and dumping it, which I guess in a way that is what he is doing, but he has a little bit more of a calculated approach to it. So he has a certain amount of water that he fills the bucket up to, and then he is dumping that inside of there, and then he takes 2 bags and he dumps it in, and he is looking for it to become the perfect consistency of concrete. We don't want it too dry, but we don't want it all watery like this either, because if it's too dry, it's really hard to work with, and if it's too wet, then it's not as strong as it should be. So once he gets into the perfect moisture, then he's ready to dump it in, and then once he gets a couple dumps down in there for me, then I hit it with the stinger, get everything smoothed out, and then he just keeps repeating that process. So Roman honestly has a really hard job here, and he makes it look easy. We are now about halfway through the pour. We got our first little pallet emptied up. Second one's about half gone now, and we still got the third one. So I'm thinking that we should have enough concrete. Looking down here, we are still holding up pretty good with our form. It doesn't look like we have any warping or anything going on. We got all the concrete contained at the bottom. We got the bottom plate on, so now the concrete's pressing up against the bottom of that. And then I end up taking these shims to hold my boards in place. Looking inside, we are just about up to the top of this piece of plywood, and once we get up to here, then we will have to add another one. But I'd say we probably have 5 or 6 more pours until we get up there. I do need to hit this with the stinger while I'm here. It looks like we got some unevenness, so I just kind of move it up and down as I go through. Maybe a little hard to hear while I'm running this, but I'm just going up and down with it about a foot at a time, and then I go up and down, jump over a foot, up, down, over a foot. I do that on one side of the rebar mat, and then I do the exact same thing on the other side, going back. And then usually by that time, Roman comes in with another pour, Then I smooth that one out. He hits another pour over here, smooth that one out, and then I wait a couple, and I do the exact same thing again. Oh yeah, we have now officially hit our seam, so we got a little bit of milk coming through there. It's looking good. It'll block itself up here in a minute. Sticking the stinger down in. I already feel once I get about a foot down, that bottom stuff's already starting to set up and get hard. So I can't really stick the stinger all the way down, which is a good thing, because when that stuff sets up, it'll also help put a little bit less pressure on our form because it kind of holds itself, which is not a bad thing. Roman just made a quick little pop down here to help me install this piece, because if we look at the top, we are getting a little bit of separation as we have made our way to the top of this plywood form. The 14 inches of concrete that we have right here is getting a little bit heavy for our form. So we're just kind of taking our time right now and letting this set up a little bit, so then that way maybe it won't quite put as much force on the form, and then we are keeping a really close eye. If that starts moving anymore, then we are going to have to build some more bracing. We are about 80 bags into our pour so far. You can see all the bags right there onto that piece of rebar. We are going to pause for a minute and build a couple extra supports down on our forms. I'm hearing some creaking, and I don't like standing next to them while creaking is going on, because when wood creaks, it doesn't take very much more before poof, you don't have wood anymore. You have a big wave of concrete on top of you, and we don't want that. We're so close to getting this wall done, so we're gonna go down there and try to support things up a little bit more, and then we have like 2 feet left to pour, then we'll be done. Upon adding a bunch more bracing to our forms, we have decided we are going to set a timer for an hour and let that get kind of hard. We want to pour this in one continuous pour, so that way there's not a seam in the middle. They call that a cold joint. We want it to be one nice pour where we can take the vibrator and make everything beat together. That way there's not a seam in the middle where water would be able to get through in the future. But with our form kind of collapsing under all of the weight, the OSB sheeting that we are using is proving to be pretty porous and is sucking in all the water, and I think it's making kind of weak and it's starting to make it bow. We have decided it is best just to wait a little bit, let it set up, and then continue our pour. And we're hoping if we let it set up just enough, maybe it'll still be soft enough where we pour and we vibrate and we can still get it to be one monolithic pour. So it's a little bit unfortunate, but we accidentally made our wall a little thicker than we wanted to. We were kind of shooting for 12 inches. I dug it out to 14, so it was my fault, but that's just a lot of weight for this to hold up. So Roman's really got our brace nice. He's doing a good job. We're gonna let it sit, and then hopefully we'll be able to finish the last little bit of the pour. It's been about half an hour now since we decided to stop and wait. Roman has been adding more supports down in the basement, and while he's been doing that, I've been up here just making sure stuff's clean. So I just ran a bunch of water in here, took the brush to the mixer. Once we get started again with concrete, we will be getting this dirty, but we just don't want to let that concrete set up, because then once it's dirty in there, then it makes it a real pain to clean in the future. And then I also did the same thing on the stinger as well as our trowels. So if we need to use them again, we can. But while we're waiting, I guess it just kind of feels nice to have everything clean. And speaking of clean, I just realized I forgot to clean this shovel. So we're gonna give this a little squirt of some water and hit it with the brush. A little pro tip, if you're trying to clean your tools, in the past I would always use my hand, and the concrete will eventually break down your skin on your hand, and then your hands will start to hurt, and then they'll also be really dry. But if you use a brush like this, it actually does a better job, and your hands don't hurt, which is always a plus. I guess Roman wants to try filling it again. We've let it sit for about half an hour. The bottom half has had almost 2 hours to set up, so really, that should be getting pretty solid down there, where at least it's kind of holding itself up a little bit better. We are up to just about right here. So Roman got the top piece in place. He added a bunch more supports. So we are now going to try to pour this top little bit. So I'm basically done down here. I'm gonna keep an eye on this just to make sure stuff's not moving, but I'm gonna be able to do all of my vibrating from the top now because I don't have any access in here anymore. Since our 30-minute wait, we have done 3 more pours, so that is 6 bags or 360 pounds more of concrete plus whatever the water weighs. It looks like everything's holding up okay, so we're just gonna keep slowly adding to this. We now have one of our holes full. We've been hitting it with the stinger and nothing else is going down in there. I do see an air gap on this side. So I'm gonna go down below and I'm gonna tap on this half of the form while Roman hits it with the stinger and then maybe see if we can get things to flow a little bit. Sometimes that combination of tapping on the form and running the stinger just gets things to move the right direction. I can feel that vibrator. We just got done pouring our pour. So everything we formed up today is now poured. Our holes are full. I did take some of the stuff that we spilled and I did build it up. So that way we just had a little bit more going up on the existing foundation wall. So we should have everything nice and full down there. It looks like our forms are holding up good. So that is good news. Roman just took off. So I'm gonna finish cleaning this stuff up. We'll get the mixer cleaned up, get our stinger cleaned up, get our shovel cleaned up. Maybe get some of this stuff picked up just a little bit in case the wind blows. And then, man, we got a lot done today. That's awesome. Before Roman left, he walked over to me and he's like, here, use this. So we got ourselves a really bright light to be able to see what we're doing. So this thing is handy. I need to give myself one of these. Here we go. It took about half an hour. You can see my cleanup spot right there, but we got all the concrete stuff cleaned up and we basically got all our trash put away. We'll deal with that tomorrow. I am starting to get tired, to be honest. Looking at the form of the foundation wall that we just poured, it appears that everything is holding up. I don't hear any creaking or anything. I think now things have kind of set up to the point. I think we should be 100% A-okay, and we should be in the clear on this thing being able to hold itself. So when we come back tomorrow, we'll be able to strip all this off, and hopefully it'll look just like this wall over here. All nice and smooth. We don't want any pockets anywhere, which I think we did a pretty good job of vibrating. So I'm excited to see how this turns out. And once we get this one done, we just have this little spot right here left. And this is the last one that we have to do. So anyway, now that we got our concrete poured and everything is holding up, we got everything cleaned up, Roman went home. We are done for the day. So this is all we got. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one.